Hey, are we here? No. Hey guys, come on in. I bet you can't guess what we're going to do tonight, all right? This is your clue, a unicorn. I'm excited about this project, all right? I've been doing research, and I cannot believe what I found. I knew a little bit of horses. Remember, we did horses a while back, you regular viewers, and we've done some other mythological animals such as dragons and fairies and lions and tigers and bears. But the unicorn is special to me because it is such an incredibly interesting animal. Usually, I have a pornographic memory, and I memorize all this, but I got to read this. This is so good, I don't want to mess it up, okay? The name unicorn is from Latin, unus, one, and cornum, horn. All right, that's easy enough, right? And the way that it's usually drawn and painted on tapestries and stained glass windows and heralds and coat of arms and everything, it has a billy goat beard, a lion's tail, and cloven hooves. All right, that's your straight down the middle of the road unicorn. But every culture and every century, you know, they kind of take liberties with it. Like different people see Sasquatch a different way, and they see dragons a different way. They're seeing the East one way, and in the West another way. Lots of famous people have spoke of the unicorn, such as Julius Caesar, kid you not, Confucius, ta-da. His mother supposedly met a unicorn in the forest, and the unicorn in the East is a harbinger of good news. And so the unicorn told her she was going to have a very wise son being born. And supposedly Confucius wrote in his writings toward the end of his life, he was born about 500 BC, that a unicorn came to him and told him that his time was up. So they're like angel messenger creatures over in the East. Far East. With us in the West, with the European heritage, we see them quite differently, and they're not listed in Greek mythology, okay? They're listed in Greek history. All right, I love that idea, you know? They're not mythological. They thought they were real. All right, if we're going to unicorn made, I got to quit talking about them, and I got to get busy. All right, over to the board, I'm going to show what we're going to do. As usual, we're going to start in the beginning, number 1, and I've written armature. So to make something large like this, an armature, you veterans know, is like the internal skeleton, right? The bones that hold the muscles that hold the flesh. So we're going to start out with a platform, which I've brought, which is just a square piece of wood, and it has or it will have a pole up the center, all right? All right, this is for support, okay? Then we're going to cover this pole with an armature, which is cardboard, like we did the giraffe and so forth. And it's like a banana or a carrot. It's wider at the base and narrower at the top. Then we're going to bend that armature so we make like a capital L. So it's narrow like the carrot, and then it comes down wider. Then we're going to flesh it out by putting on slabs of clay. All right, there's the round cheekbone coming down, there's the nose, and you see we've, as we call it, fleshed it out. That's slab number 2, and number 3, as usual, will be the detail where we have the ears and we have the mane. Now the pretty mane, and you probably notice I got a little anal retentive, which I don't usually do. Coming in, looking at the picture, there's the eyes, all right, here's the nostril. They got a nice pretty smile, they're happy. There's a little, I think they call it goat beard thing over here. There's the other nostril. There's the thing in the forehead. There's the big jawbone over here. All right, narrow in the neck, coming out. All right, we got this bad boy. All right, that's what we've got to do. Now I've been doing my notes. I've been studying horse anatomy, so I see where the muscles and the bones are. All right, we always do research. I've done my research there. Then I've read to get into the mood. You always got to get in the mood, do your best work. I've done this research, and I found out that Julius Caesar, Marco Polo wrote about him in China. Of course, they think that he may have been talking about the rhinoceros because he said it was ugly and hairy and it had feet like an elephant. But he called it a unicorn, all right? All these famous people, and the Bible. This flips me out, guys. I didn't know this was in the Bible. I got to read you this one quote here. It said, But my horn shalt thou exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be anointed with fresh oil. That's in Psalms 92. They're talking about unicorns in the Bible. Now, and the Apocrypha and the Septuagint and some of their earlier books, they quite often spoke of the unicorn, but they didn't make the final addition to the Bible. Okay, this is the real King James Version. They're talking about unicorn, guys. Right here is, we're setting up for the armature. Now, some of you have more experience with clay and watched my show a long time. Some of you are novices, so I'm not talking down to anybody. So this I do so I'll be able, as I work on the project, in case I don't finish it, I'll be able to move it from point A to point B and wrap it in plastic and work on it at a later date. All right, this is what I showed you when I said number 1. Number 2, it doesn't look like much. I prepped a little bit, okay? This is a piece of cardboard. It's actually one of my old boxes that the clay came in, and it's hollow so that it will fit down onto the wooden shaft, all right? And then it tapers like I told you about, like a carrot, and then I'm going to bend it, and those of you with good graphic recognition, you see already that it's looking similar to his buddy over here. Remember, this is the skeletal system, then we'll do the muscle system, and then we'll do the details. Now, we got to flesh it out, as it were. This is a skinny horse. I brought different things here. In the studio, I would use different things, and I'm going to just look and see what I've got. This is what I have, and I know that the animal is bigger at his base, all right? So I've got this on here, and this will keep my clay from being too thick. Ideally, if I live in an ideal world, ideally, the clay is not going to be any thicker anywhere than a slice of white bread. So what I'm doing now is what sometimes it's called is fleshing it out, all right? I beefed up the chest a little bit. I need to beef it up more, all right? Now, anything will work. Old newspapers, plastic bags. I did a show recently, and this was the tabletop that covered my table. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to wrap around it and pretend that I'm going to get it right the very first time. Now, quite often I'm teaching large classes, and I have lots and lots of volunteers, children, that want to help me do everything, and so sometimes many hands make light work. I'm afraid I'm redundant quite often, and I love philosophy as well as art history. They're very similar. And one of the things that I have said quite often is, if you don't start out right, you won't end up right. I'm not talking about choosing your parents carefully or anything of that nature, but I'm saying when you are making the armature, if I can't wait to do the ears and the eyes, and you start rushing a little bit, and you make a mistake like building a house and your footing isn't square or it's not level because you can't wait to start putting the wallpaper up or some of the finished touches, then I have to quite often reprimand my younger students not to be in too big a hurry, that we never have time to do it right, but we have time to do it twice. I know these are a lot of cliches, but there's a lot of truth in it. But now, hopefully one day, and I get a lot of really intelligent questions in the email, and one of the questions I get is, do you leave this armature in your sculpture, or do you pull it out? That's an intelligent question. I'll try to answer it because that's the one I get most often, emails. I am designing this so I will be able to reach up inside and pull this armature back out of my horse. I'm actually bearing that in mind. Okay? That's actually not too bad. All right? You guys, do you see the similarity now? Point A and point B? Right, see how we fleshed it up? Okay. Now, I don't like people that make excuses before they do something, all right? Like the public speaker that says, unaccustomed to public speaking as I am, and then he gives a bad speech, all right? I'm not blaming anything or anybody, but I am pushing this faster than I should. Now, I'm going to take this bag. Here's a neat little professional trick. And I'm going to cover all of this. That way, when I go to flesh it out in just a moment, that ordinarily the clay would have got inside and got in all of those little wrinkles and just really grabbed the hole, and it would have made it difficult for me to pull the armature out. Now, at a later date, I'm going to reach up inside when this is leather hard, and I'm going to pull the armature out of the center of this, because this armature, this cardboard carrot thing that I just put on there, that actually was the one that I took out of this one. All right, so it can come out, and it'll come out in stages. Lately, we put one of our shows up on YouTube, and when artists call, I get mostly potters that are used to working with clay, but they only throw on the wheel, and they're not used to some of the tricks and techniques that we do together. And so they ask me these technical questions, all right? Yeah, I'm a little thicker here than I want to be. I may not be big enough in the chest. Aha. But I know how to fix that. You guys are going to love this. Okay. This is my armature. That's number one. We're now on number two. Now, little personal story here. I've had the same plastic toolbox for 15 years. $10 plastic toolbox, and it finally gave up the ghost, and I had to get a new one. And I haven't switched all the tools yet. All right, so I don't have everything I want. You see my thickness here. I'm a little bit thicker than I want to be. So I'm going to take one of the tools that we're all very familiar with. Now, I started out with a brand new 25-pound block of clay. And again, if I can keep my thickness very consistent, roughly about a little thicker in this situation than a slice of white bread. Now, I can go down a little bit thinner, a little bit thicker, but that would be an ideal thickness. All right? Now, this is what I meant by number two when we cover the armature with a slab. All right? I'll need the glasses for reading so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Not bad. That's a little better than I thought. Now, if I cut this the right thickness, I won't have to work it so much. Okay, I did better that time. Practice makes perfect. Now, I'm wrapping these two slabs around, and you veterans know that we need to score. That's when you scratch up the surfaces. Score. And slip. And that's when you add water that'll go inside those grooves and things, and it will help these two to fuse together. What I was laughing about when I told you I had switched toolboxes, I really missed my other one because I had spent 15 years inventing these little tools and put every possible tool in it, and I haven't converted, like breaking in a new wife or a new hunting dog or something. I haven't converted this new one yet. Okay, not bad, not bad. I don't know why I'm always the most surprised person in the room when this works. It's a lot better. That time I'll pretend I made the mistake on purpose so I could teach you. You'll see that this top edge is thicker and the bottom edge is thinner. I'm aware of that, and I'm going to work it. Work it, girl. The very first tool was the human hand. All right? And I go to a lot of schools. I'm in the artist in residence program, and I have to bring in tools for the children. Have to be very careful because, I don't want to have any tool that a child could hurt themselves with. And that really, children are very creative on getting hurt. That limits me to what tools that I can use. And so I find lots of ways to use popsicle sticks and plastic forks. Okay. You get a feel for this. I've heard people say that before about having a feel for something, sports or music or whatever. How do you teach somebody to get a feel for something? But practice makes perfect. My wife and I were having one of those philosophical, artistic debates about art earlier today, and we have both read a lot of the same books about art and philosophy. And she was saying that she was practicing a particular thing with her painting, and said, but she thought she was maybe practice makes perfect, but that she was practicing something wrong. Well, suppose you were practicing a piece of music and you didn't have a good music teacher, and you were practicing that piece of music wrong. Or you had written something down in math, like multiplication tables, and you had written down some wrong numbers, and you practiced, but you were practicing something wrong. So you have to be very careful. Be careful what you practice, because practice makes perfect. All right. Now this is what I meant earlier about getting a feel for it. I'm actually pulling the mane out as I go. This is why one day in art school we were having to do a lot of art history, and of course I just read a little art history to you. And very bright young person in the class, it wasn't me, asked the professor, why do we have to study all this art history? And he said, well, if you were an engineering student, you'd have to study the history of engineering, water wheel and steam engines and so forth. The guy says, yeah, but I want to, invent something a lot more modern than the water wheel or steam engine. He said, if you don't find out what's already been done, the water wheel, you might work 20 years and invent a steam engine. I thought about that. Yeah, if you didn't know that somebody else had already invented it. But if you can learn from the genius that other people have done, and then add your own creativity to it, then it kind of moves it along, right? Many people get credit for the quote. The guy, I think it was Einstein, that said, you say that I'm intelligent, but it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. I love that quote, right? Stand on the shoulders of giants. Right. So all the things that I'm learning, I have read from the various books that you saw me checking, and I still go to art shows, and I get to commune with other artists. I remember the scene in The Wizard of Oz when he told the people in Oz he wanted to go back and hobnob with the other wizards. A way of making his escape from Oz. So I get to hobnob when I go. I did a show Saturday up in Raleigh, and I got to talk to other artists, and it was very refreshing, and they shared trade secrets and so forth. They're very good about sharing their skills with you. No paranoia there. All right, you guys see this thing shaping up? All right. Now, as you know it, sometimes this is primary, and I'm going to finish it. I doubt we'll be able to finish the whole piece in this show, so you got to tune in next time, and we're going to do the details like the ears and the eyes and so forth like that. But you learned a lot already, didn't you? Now, I did spend a little longer on the armature than I sometimes do, because a lot of my students are in a hurry, and the bad analogy, and I've made it too many times, but I'll do it again. If you can imagine that you're a chef, one of those cooking shows, and you say, okay, boys and girls, a lot of you have asked, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a birthday cake, all right? Now you get your mixing bowl and your recipe book, and you look up, and half the class are holding struck matches. They're all ready to light the candles, and you haven't broken the first egg yet. Well, a lot of very creative people, visual thinkers, they mentally, emotionally, visually jump ahead. And they wonder, why can't you keep up with them? All right? So when I'm teaching newer students, I have to get them to spend that extra time on the foundation before they try to decorate. Now, I do want to get in, I got in the chest area and I got in the face, but the next biggest shape is this big, long jawbone. And this is what I'm using, this real sophisticated tool right here. And I'll try to work upside down backwards, the gift of dyslexia. And I'm going to work in that jawbone. This is not bad at all. Now, one of the things, and you veterans know this, but I'm going to tell you other guys, I'm going to have the head at, I don't know, what is this? This is 90. This is a 45-degree angle. I'm going to have it slightly above 90. You see where it is now? And you look at the one on the left, and you see that this guy, the nose has come down. All right. This is essential. If you heard nothing else, hear this. Okay? You have to start here to end up here. I can't, when I go on a journey, I have to start in the beginning. I can't start in the end. And a lot of right brain dominant people cannot grasp that. You know, I want the nose to be looking down. Well, if I were to turn the nose down now, we have something here in the studio called gravity. We have it shipped in. We've got a big supply. And so gravity would keep making it go down further. So, hope I said that well. I have to start here so I can end up there. If I start down, it'll just keep going down until it might even fall over. Now, as I use this paddle to shape it, this is also burping it or kneading it, K-N-E-E-D, knead. And I've just started getting the jaw in there, and I have to be very careful not to go too fast. And I need to taper the face forward, and there's that center nose. Now, clay has silicate, the way your hair has texture and fiber, and the more you stroke it, the more you line all of that up. And I'm pretty pleased. I'm going to start bringing out the back. Now, the shape to here is like the wing on an airplane, where it's widest in the front and then it narrows toward the back. So this is what I'm sort of doing now. And this is so much fun. It gets out therapy. You kind of get into it and everything. I have adult classes on Tuesday night, and I'll step over to get a cup of coffee. I look back, and these ladies are in there just whacking away on this stuff, you know, and I think they're kind of overdoing it. And I go, you know, you kind of like, you're running in the same spot too long. I think you've driven that nail. And they'll always say, I've had such a hard day. You know, I really, you know, need to, I need a hug. Okay, I understand I need a hug, but I need to slap. So I don't know what kind of day they had. It's don't ask, don't tell, all right? This is actually feeling pretty good, and I'm burping it too. And that is actually the word. I'm not trying to be vulgar. I can be vulgar without trying, all right? It's a gift, all right? But it is the actual word, and it's burping because when the two pieces of clay came together, those plates a while ago, like continental plates, they trapped a little air as thin as a slice of ham in a New York deli. Very thin little slice there. And so that air, when I trap it in and it gets hot inside the kiln, it may, pow, cause an explosion. And I don't want that to happen. So this is like, you know, a little child that's eating and you put on the shoulder and you do this. A little cute child, goo goo gaga, and they're ribbit. All right. So I'm kind of burping this clay as I go. And I'm real pleased with the progress we're making. Now, we got 1 and 2. On number 3 is the detail. So next I'm going to make the eyes and the ears and the horn. And I'm going to set them aside so they can start to get stiff. And then I will put them in, but I'll put sockets to put the eyes in, and I'll put holes to put the ears on, and I'll have a hole here to put the unicorn horn on. Now, I read the mythology stuff, and on the unicorn, the horn was had magical powers, don't they all? And supposedly, the royalty of the throne in Denmark commanded a unicorn horn, if you can believe that. It was help you to fight off poisons. So if you could get a unicorn horn and your enemy's poisoned you, you put the unicorn horn in there, you were fine. I'm going to make the horn. You guys are going to love this, all right? I cut off a little square slab of clay. See that? Okay. This is so cool. You're going to love it. Watch closely. I'm going to roll using the palms of my hand, and I'm going to make one end skinny and one end fat, or I'm going to taper it so it is bigger on one end and smaller on the other end. You see that? Like a carrot. Now, that's a little bit big. Tear it the size that I want it. You got to watch this. I didn't invent it, but it's a cool trick. I think it has to do with physics and the screw and something, but whatever. I'm going to go across here. This is 90-degree angle. This is 45. I'm going to go across here at a 45-degree angle, all right? And when I do, it is going to put the grooves. Queen Elizabeth I had a unicorn horn in her curiosity cabinet. And in China, the Vikings sold the unicorn horns for many times their weight in gold. Do you see this? All right. Of course, when they examined the Queen Elizabeth unicorn horn, it was the tusk of a narwhal, which is a crustacean whale fish in the Arctic Ocean, and they had this big horn coming out. All right, see the horn? All right. I'm going to lay it aside so it can get stiff. And I have this worked out good. This 25-pound block of clay, I think I'm going to just about do this right. Like I was speaking earlier, practice makes perfect. I want 2 ears, all right? I just about got time to get the ears made. I think this is about right. I'm going to do the same trick as before. I am going to use the palms of my hand. I'm going to roll it on the table. This time, I did what we call the mustache, and I have it fat in the middle and skinny on both ends. And so now I'm going to tear it in 2, so I have 2 equal pieces. A little bit long for ears. Lay it in my hand, take my thumb, stroke it down like this. And there are the ears, all right? I've got them set up. Now, you guys tune in next week, and now these will be stiff, and I'm going to put them on, and I'm going to do the eyes, and we're going to do the mane. That is going to be so very, very cool. But there is a sequence, step 1, step 2, step 3. That's why I told the bad joke about the children that wanted to light the candles, you know. Remember, this was Unicorn 1. Next time, it's going to be Unicorn 2, and I'm going to show you how to do the fancy hair and put some expressions in the eyes, and I'll tell you some more history about all the famous people in history, all right? You guys tune in next time, and we'll work on the unicorn.